Hey MMA fans, Caged Minds, your host Maiquel here to do our predictions for Bellator 66. 5 fights on the main card, so we got 5 predictions for you. We're going to start off in the lightweight semifinals. Michel, who's 10-2, taking on Brent Weedman, 19-7-1. Michel, a kickboxer who also holds a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. 9 of his 10 victories come via the TKO. His preference is to keep the fight standing as much as possible, use his long limbs on the ground to try an opponent up to get a stand-up if he hits the ground. Both of his losses in his career have come from the submission. His opponent, Brent Weedman, 10 TKOs and 8 submissions out of his 19 victories. On the 7 losses, 5 of them have come from the decision. Brent Weedman's going to look to use his Dutch kickboxing. So it's going to be kickboxing versus kickboxing. We're going to look for a lot of movement and a lot more punches than just your typical kickboxers. Michel throws a lot more leg kicks through the middle than most kickboxers do. Brent Weedman has an advantage in this fight where it comes from the grappling, his grappling prowess. He's won a lot more fights from the submission, a lot longer training on the ground. At some point in his mixed martial arts career, as he keeps moving up to stiffer and tougher competition, Michel will see that this lack of complete confidence in his ground game can hurt him. But in this fight, I see it going to the decision. I think Michel outstrikes and outworks Weedman. Weedman with not a solid enough wrestling base to take this to the ground. Michel wins with a unanimous decision. Next matchup we're talking about, still a lightweight semifinal. It's between Lloyd Woodard, who's 12-1, versus Hawn, also 12-1. Lloyd Woodard, fun to watch in the ring, and an unorthodox submission stylist. He loves to swing away, swing for the fences, the consummate underdog, and embraces that. Comes in as a dog in a fight. 3 TKOs and the 7 submissions out of his 12 victories. He is a fight finisher, entertaining to watch, not scared to exchange the leather, and a pretty decent chin on the man. His opponent is Hawn. Hawn, the Olympic judo gold medalist. 8 TKOs out of 12 victories. He wants to hit and hit hard. Hawn has very heavy hips. Getting him to the ground is going to be nearly impossible. If he's able to get his hunk sunk in and do a trip or a throw, Woodard will end up on the ground. I think that Hawn hits harder. He'll end up ending this fight in the 3rd round with a TKO. Not sure if I'm going to call it ground and pound or standing, but I see it being ended after an accumulation of a war. 3rd round TKO for Hawn. Now we move on to the middleweight semifinals. First one we're talking about, Vasilevsky, who's 16-1, is going to take on Maiquel, Big Rig Falcao, who's 29-4. Vasilevsky, in his 16 victories, 5 from the submission and 5 from the TKO. So we got 6 decisions. His boxing, very tight and crisp. He keeps his punches straight. He works the jab brilliantly for any boxer that we've seen in MMA. It's his lack of experience against top-level competition here that I'm suspect on, because Falcao is another level up. He is another beast from what Vasilevsky has faced before. Vasilevsky can win this fight with the jab, with the uppercut, and with an accumulation of strikes. Perhaps the better movement also. He really emphasizes his angles, and that could bother Falcao. Where Falcao is going to use his Muay Thai, his Shuto box. He's going to come in, head down, throwing crazily. 23 of his 29 victories are from the TKO. He's going to come in, look to use that, batter the legs with the leg kicks and the combinations. Perhaps even do like he did against Norman Praisley, which was get inside and then use the body trip. He's a thicker, stronger, older, physically imposing fighter from the jiu-jitsu aspect because of all of his experience. Maiquel Falcao wins this fight because he'll be able to turn to his jiu-jitsu when he needs it to get the decisions. I believe he wins this with a split decision because Vasilevsky's boxing really is an impressive sight to see. Last of our semifinals in that middleweight, we have Bruno Santos, who's 13-0, taking on Brian the Predator Rogers, who's 9-3. Bruno Santos, very muscular, stout middleweight, 5'9", 185 pounds. Who knows what he is when he's in the cage. He primarily wins his fights from the decision. He's able to use his jiu-jitsu in a wrestling kind of mode, where he pushes guys against the cage, gets that position, beats them up, takes them down. Brian the Predator Rogers is a former football player, has that explosive ability, and is the better striker in this fight. He has those 9 victories, 8 of them with the TKO finish. All 9 have been finishes. Do we see another finish coming for Brian Rogers? It's possible for him to win this fight with a TKO if he's able to catch Santos with the flying knee that he's landed several times. It's a move that he looks for. He has great strength. The power that will be displayed in this matchup is very exciting. To see who wins the clinch, for one time I'm actually kind of interested to see it. It's the physical, imposing power, thickness, muscularness of both of these men. I can't wait to see who gets that position and dominance of pressure. I think that Brian Rogers, though, with his striking, with the jab, with better combinations, he definitely wins this fight, and I think it's with the finish. I'm going to go a second round TKO for Brian the Predator Rogers. And now we go to our main event. This is a rematch that the world of mixed martial arts across the world has been very intrigued to see. Eddie Alvarez is 22-3. He's going to take on Shinya Aoki, who's 35-2. Eddie Alvarez, how does he bounce back from the loss versus Michael Chandler? For Aoki, it's how does he do coming over to America again. Last time we saw him here, did not have such great luck against Gilbert Melendez. So Eddie Alvarez, keys to this fight is to watch the Gilbert Melendez fight and emulate that plan perfectly. Crouch down low, use the jab and the hooks, and stay away from the grappling exchanges as much as you can. Shinya Aoki is violent with his submissions. 19 of 30 victories come from submission. He's trying to take limbs home with him. He's trying to hurt people. In his 5 losses, 3 of them do come from the TKO. So Shinya Aoki's way to win this is to win it with a submission. He can lose it with a TKO. So those are our finishing predictions. Would be if it's a win for Aoki, it's by a submission. If it's a win for Alvarez, it'd be by the TKO. How does this fight go? It's very interesting to see how it's played. Aoki, as we remember, he does some awkward things inside of the cage. As we remember from his last fight, from the first time him and Eddie Alvarez met up, he did this boot scoot across the cage from his backside, trying to get Alvarez down the ground. That doesn't really happen in American mixed martial arts, because if you're standing and you want your opponent standing, the ref will jump in usually and stand you up. So I see that as a disadvantage for Aoki. With the boxing, I believe Alvarez is really going to be empowered. The pressure is on. This is his time. Both men actually have tons of pressure on their shoulders for this. Alvarez, I think, puts the combinations together, stays within the game plan, and wins this with a unanimous decision victory. We're going to go for the unanimous decision on the prediction, knowing full well that if Eddie Alvarez loses, it's most likely to a submission from Aoki very quickly on the bottom. We'll go back through those predictions one more time. Taking Thiago Michel with a decision, Rick Hawn with a TKO, Maiquel Falcao with the split decision, Brian Rogers with the TKO, and Eddie Alvarez with the unanimous decisions. Thanks for watching. This has been Caged Minds. Hit the like button, subscribe to the videos, hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, uncage the warrior within yourself, and have a good night.